which that doesn't go out. But
What power?
like
The light, it would just turn the
the
lights
lights.
off.
Yeah.
I would say it would. Because the phone would stay on, but I mean the internet would go out. And,
Yeah.
All right, on
Right.
you.
All good.
Yes, sir.
good.
Welcome back to the Second Detroit podcast, where the entire playbook is open. I'm Josiah.
I'm Cooper.
Not made.
And for those of you who like to listen to audio only, the link for the Spotify will be in the description.
I'm still half asleep, guys. For our listeners, I had a long day in the sun, doing a lot of hard work and hard play. That's what we do at my internship, and because of that, I am beat. I woke up and Josie and Cooper were both here waiting for me, because that's how good of teammates they are. We do have a nice little episode for you guys. We're going to continue our iconic number series. We're going to wait till the end, though, for that one. We're going to do numbers 40 through 49. We actually did it off camera, which I think we mentioned last week that we were wondering. We do have some honorable mentions, but for most of those 10 digits, we already have a decided victor. So we'll give those to you guys. And then a couple of conversations that were brought up last week. Some of the best running back duos that are out there. And it was funny. It was like NFL Historics Instagram. I forget if it was them or the 33rd team. They actually posted their top 6 running back duos in the NFL. And I was like looking through the list casually because I was like, all right, like we can make a TikTok out of this at least, just like a reaction. And there were some good ones, some that kind of caught me off guard. I get through all 6, and the last slide is Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair. They're both 1,000-yard rushers. Montgomery, double-digit touchdowns. Gibbs, we haven't even seen his ceiling yet. I was like, I can get behind that. So without kind of overthinking, I was like, did they miss anybody? I went back and looked. Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren were not included in those top 6, which is wild.
Yeah.
When I think that they're top 2 with an argument for number 1. So
Right now, for sure.
yeah. So we're going to be looking at some past running back duos that have really just been amazing. Even if they weren't amazing duos necessarily, but just an insanely talented backfield on the roster on paper. And then maybe one of those guys finally got his opportunity elsewhere. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some current running back duos. And then Naples on his just rage of glory last week where he was trying to upset everyone and everything, mentioned that Jim Schwartz was not one of the better defensive minds in the NFL, even currently, which is wild. So we're going to be talking about the defensive minds, both present day and looking back. So that sounds like a lot, but I think we're going to be able to fly right through it.
Yeah, I think so.
But so, Josie, I have a list of running back duos, as you saw, kind of a vary of time range. You said that there was one that you didn't see, though, so if you wanted to bring that up real quick.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, looking down some of these names that you have on there, you got Hall of Famers on there. You've got some guys who are just like, incredible guys that aren't going to be in the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Very Good, I think that's the term that you like to coin for that one. I mean, there's just some absolute dogs on there. And, like, when I was looking down through it, I'm like, a lot of times when you see the names on there, it's like a lot of these guys had peaks at different points in their career. So, like, at one point they were a backup, and then they got a chance to shine, and they looked really good. It's like, so when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about, like, okay, who are 2 guys that have that notoriety, that have, both have had really high peaks and were in the backfield at the same time? And it's somewhat recent, but one of the names two of the names I wanted to throw out there were when Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray were in the same backfield in Tennessee. It's like, no, they were never top tier at the same time. Like, Derrick Henry kind of had to wait a little bit. DeMarco Murray's peak was definitely in Dallas. But at the same time, you look at the 2 peaks that they had, it's like, all right, like, everybody knew kind of a little bit of what they were because Derrick Henry had won a Heisman. DeMarco Murray led the league in rushing twice, I think. Maybe it was just once.
I think just once, but multiple 1,000-yard season double-digit touchdowns.
Right, exactly. So it's like those 2 guys to me were just like, I wanted to at least name them, even if they wouldn't have been in like our top 5 that we had on there. I think that they're definitely worthy of a mention for sure. So.
No, and DeMarco Murray, people forget how good he was even after he left Dallas. Obviously, the down year in Chip Kelly's offense just wasn't a mesh. Ryan Matthews fit better. But when he gets to Tennessee, he spends 2 seasons in Nashville. The first season, well over 1,000 yards. Both of them he shared with Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry kind of
Took a backseat.
Derrick Henry wasn't the guy
Yeah.
until halfway through his 4th season. And obviously, then we saw King Henry in his rage of glory become just amazing and the, without question, best running back in the NFL.
Yeah.
But it took him a while. And DeMarco Murray retired when he still honestly probably could have played. One of the few running backs who can say he played 7 seasons and had 7,000 rush yards. He averaged 1,000 rush yards per season in the NFL.
That's wild.
One that I did not see on there as well, but I don't think it should be mentioned, but Lamar and Derrick Henry. They haven't played
Right.
together yet, but I think it'll be one
I
in
think
the future for conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one of the ones that, like, we know it's going to be good. Like, it's going to be good. Like, you have to worry about both of them. Like, they're going to get theirs. It doesn't matter who's touching the ball. Like, they're both going to get it. So, I'm just worried about the receivers. Because, like, if you got those two guys in the backfield, like, when are they getting the ball to the receivers?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're big Zay Flowers guys. I'm not sure how you feel about Zay, but, like, they've got guys. Like, they even drafted Tez Walker this year, which who knows if he's going to be good or not, but, like,
I think they have 3 more than capable tight ends. Mark Andrews obviously headlines that group, but Isaiah Likely, I think he proved last year that he is a starting level tight end, probably already a top 20 tight end and improving. Charlie Kolar was actually picked before Isaiah Likely, a really talented college football player out of Iowa State. I think that he still might have something to him, but I agree. And Keaton Mitchell, if he comes back from an ACL,
yeah.
people forget last year, every time he touched the ball, it was a 50 to 80 yard touchdown. Just
Yeah.
truly explosive athlete.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But Cooper, I really appreciated you saying that because when I was trying to like just brainstorm guys, I was like, all right, I know we're saying running back duos and like that. What we've said by that, that's not criticizing Lamar. That wasn't some backhanded compliment or anything, but it is kind of like a running back duo.
Yeah.
I mentioned Lamar earlier with Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram had a really good first season in Baltimore. Lamar and him both over 1,000 yards. Another one was Mike Vick back in his Atlanta Falcon days with work done. Both of them just a huge threat. You could, heck, go Vick to the Eagles. Vick and... All right.
Did it just happen?
I don't know.
Charlie Kolar are good. Like, is that how we're going to wrap that up? A lot of weapons on the Ravens.
Yep.
Keaton Mitchell, a guy that we didn't mention. People forget. 50-plus yard touchdown every time he touched the ball last year. The Ravens have guys.
Yeah.
And I think we all kind of said that after another successful draft. We kind of were like, Hunter, like, you don't understand how good this Nate Wiggins guy is.
So good.
Tez Walker very well could end up being nothing. But there's a chance he is something. TJ Tampa, good value pick. But thinking of Christian. Oh, TJ Tampa no matter what.
Dude, if he was available there, like, I don't mind the McCormick pick, but, like, TJ Tampa was available. Like,
I'm fine. McCormick's.
I know. He's supposed, from everything I've seen about him, I'm happy with the pick.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'm fine with just going all in on Big Ugly. But Cooper, I'm glad that you mentioned Lamar because Lamar shows up later on this list with Mark Ingram. What's funny?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. You're just really
Said,
appreciative of me.
Not bad for a running back.
Yeah, well, we're not saying it in a derogatory way. Like, this isn't supposed to be a backhanded compliment for Lamar Jackson. But, like, he is a threat in the backfield. So I thought of his time earlier in his career, his first MVP season, Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram had a really good season with Baltimore, 1,000 yards, double-digit touchdowns. So did Lamar Jackson, though. They were scary in the backfield together. And if you look at Lamar's mentor, Mike Vick, him in his Atlanta days with work done, and then later on in Philly, I think there was a little crossover with Brian Westbrook, but they weren't playing necessarily at the same time. But Mike Vick and Shady McCoy, for sure, were a threat. So the quarterbacks do kind of come into play here. I'm trying to think if I missed any. Like, Vince Young and Chris Johnson, I don't think were great at the same time. Tebow and Noshawn Moreno, maybe. Like, those, I think the Mike Vick and Lamar ones really stand out above, though.
For sure.
Two for me that I should at least mention. And since we are a Steelers podcast, I want to be thinking ahead into the future and just.
Are you thinking present day or are you thinking
I'm
throwback?
No, I'm thinking 2 years, 3 years into the future.
Okay.
I'm thinking Najee, I'm thinking Jalen Warren, and I'm thinking Justin Fields. The trio could threaten some of these people on this list if they live up to the standards. Big ifs, big ifs.
And I think that something with that too is like that opens the passing lane. So even if their stats aren't great, like having those three in the backfield like adds something to like the dynamic of like a passing game.
sure.
Like I mean, I think that there was a lack of running game in Chicago, which is part of the reason that Justin Fields didn't have open looks and like he's admittedly not great at reads, but at the same time,
Mhm.
it's like I think that he does add a dynamic to a backfield that could be, really good, elite, borderline.
Use him like
Yeah.
a
Taysom
what's his
Hill.
name? Yes, Taysom Hill.
I saw that on a TV show with Joy Taylor and
No, Colin Coward.
no, it's the one she has with James Jones and
Acho.
Acho and Shady was on it, but they were talking about basically like
Mhm.
should Russ be on a short leash? Who's better, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, things like that.
So I know this is kind of a running back theme segment, but I'm scared of Fields. Like the idea of Justin Fields just like gets me going because like he is young. He's barely 25, if even 25 yet, and we do have 2-star running backs. We have Pat Freiermuth. We have George Pickens. Like Justin Fields being really good would be amazing because then it would be just like we drafted him. But I'm not convinced either of these guys are the long-term answer, and I think Russell Wilson might be multiple layers better than Justin Fields right now at football, which is a shame. Like I think Justin Fields is really talented, but I think everyone, not just Steeler fans, have kind of put the blinders on, and they're like, "Oh, like he was wronged in Chicago. He's not a bust." When in fact, he might just be a bust, and we see that every once in a while. Sam Darnold comes to mind.
Yeah. Update. He turned 25 on March 5th, so he
Okay.
is currently 25. Not
He's a
crazy,
fresh
honestly.
25.
Yeah. I think it's tough right now to judge it because like you look at
Cooper,
obviously
you're a
the
fresh
report.
18.
Yeah, very true. You look at the rapport between the two guys. It's like okay, Russ has obviously had a higher peak, but then I look at things like with Justin Fields, it's like he's still so raw, even after all the time that he spent in the league. Like I was watching a video of the first couple throws that him and Russ did at like OTAs, training camp, whatever it was, and I mean his mechanics are just whack. His mechanics are not good. And I don't know where the development or lack of development with that comes in, if it was a Bears issue or if it's a not attention to detail Fields issue. But like his throwing mechanics are awful. His reads are still bad. And again, it might just be that the Bears were that bad and he didn't have the opportunity to grow because he felt like he had to do everything and be Superman. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, who's taking... Like he needs to take ownership of his own development, but two, like who is like actively working with him to get that better? Because I do still think he can be good. I think that Justin Fields in the right situation can be good, but he needs to put in the work to like improve in those minor details of the game.
If Kenny Pickett was still in Pittsburgh, so let's say Russell Wilson doesn't sign, but they still end up trading for Fields, and it's Fields and Pickett, who wins the QB competition?
Fields, 100 times out of 100.
See, here's my thing. And I think this will happen with Russell. I think Pickett wins without question. I think Pickett's, if we're looking at just thrower of the football, I'm going to take Pickett over Fields right now because I think Pickett in the right offense with a real offensive coordinator with an improved line can do pretty good. The thing is, though, and like I said, I think this is going to happen with Russell. What's going to happen is Fields is going to be playing against these number twos. He's going to have some insane highlight of him just running circles around second stringers or third stringers. Yinzers all over the globe are going to be going nuts because they've never seen that before from a quarterback.
Yeah.
And it's going to create a very short leash for Russell Wilson.
He's taking some 1 reps though, isn't he? Isn't Fields taking some 1 reps?
I
At
think
least some.
I
think
think very
some,
few.
yeah.
Very,
like-
very few.
Yeah, it's a quarterback competition, but what did
Pole
Arthur Smith say?
position.
He's in a pole position. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm trying not to overreact to. I mean, again, whenever I see things like that, but like the video wasn't about Fields' mechanics, so that was the thing that I noticed about it in that situation. It's like it wasn't a video glorifying or making them look bad. It was just like it was something that I noticed in his that like his throwing motion is really wide and long, and like his steps are off and different things like that. But we got way off on a tangent there.
Yeah. we
No,
did.
it's all right.
That's good.
But our 2-hour episode, we're avoiding that.
Yeah,
Gary was not happy. Gary does not have the attention span to listen for 2 hours.
yeah.
While
Go
we're
ahead.
no, go for it.
I was gonna say I did have two guys, I guess, on this list that I did want to throw out there. It's actually the first name you had on the list, and the first guy's a Hall of Famer. It's Marcus Allen, obviously, and then the second guy is everybody's favorite athlete to throw out there as the greatest athlete of all time. It's Bo Jackson. I mean, you talk about guys who are Marcus Allen's an established Hall of Famer, and Bo Jackson never got a chance to be a real number one. Like you look at, I was actually looking through some of his stats here to kind of make this case a little bit, but. So in his career, he played in 38 games, 38 total games throughout his 4-year career that were shortened by injuries and different
Baseball.
things like that. Yeah, exactly. So he played in a total of 38 games. He had 2,700, just under 2,800 rushing yards, which equated to 5.4 yards per carry. So made a very good impact on the little amount of touches that he had because he averaged over 5 yards a carry, which for a career, I think Jamal Charles is still the only one to do that.
Yeah.
Which Jamal Charles had like a 11-year career. I don't remember what it was, but and then he only had 500 attempts in his entire career, 515 attempts because of how short his career was, because of the injury that he sustained. There's an awful, terrible career-ending injury. But a lot of people like to point out that like, oh, his stats aren't great. I think we might have had that conversation.
Never a 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah, and he had 950 in one of the seasons on 173 touches. So, like, I just think that Bo Jackson in there is, like, he never really got to be a real number one because he had a Hall of Fame Marcus Allen in front of him. A guy who was never going to take the number one torch from Marcus Allen because Marcus Allen is probably in the conversation of a top 10 running back of all time. So, I do think that those two guys are just, like, I think it's a common one when people think about him, but I think that there's a lot of validity behind that one.
I think the only other, there's two other very old throwbacks on the list, and that is one, our Steelers with Rocky Blair and Franco Harris, Franco's Italian Army. I think we talked about this either last week or the week before. Franco was probably viewed as a top 3 running back of his time. I'm sure there might have been some debate, but him, O.J. Simpson, and Jim Brown just clear. Jim Brown, obviously, a little bit before the other two. But those 3 guys were just miles ahead of everyone. I know Larry Zonka's in that generation. But Rocky Blair also had a role, nice little third down back, who also has a 1,000-yard season. I actually tried on Rocky's Super Bowl ring. Super nice guy. So shout out to Rocky Blair. I always enjoy.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
I mean, we can reach out. Why not? In addition to that, we have Terry Metcalf and Jim Otis for the Cardinals. 2 names that look familiar to me. And I know Terry Metcalf is I think he is the uncle, not the father of DK. DK's dad also played in the league, though. He was a lineman. I think there's actually 4 Metcalfs in that family tree. Eric Metcalf, a running back for the Browns also. But so 2 names that look recognizable. I think Jim Otis might be in the Hall of Fame, but an older group that did deserve some shout out. In addition to that, kind of moving on to the younger days, we mentioned Warrick Dunn. What about Warrick Dunn before he was a Falcon? Warrick Dunn and Mike Alstott, one of everyone's favorite fullbacks of all time. Kind of that same generation. We have Fred Taylor and Maurice Jones-Drew, both running backs in the Hall of Very Good. As Josie mentioned, that's kind of my way to describe them and give them their flowers. Fred Taylor, though, he has an argument for the actual Hall of Fame. So we'll be talking about that. Everyone knows that me and Josie love Hall of Fame discussions.
Yeah, sure.
Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram.
I really like that
one. Another recent one. That was when Alvin Kamara was just starting. Mark Ingram held his own, though. Mark Ingram actually comes back for a second stint, so there's 2 stints of that. We have D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart listed here, but we can make the same argument with quarterbacks and fullbacks here. They had a backfield of Cam Newton, Mike Tolbert, D'Angelo Williams, and Jonathan Stewart all together.
Yeah.
And all of those guys, Jonathan Stewart's probably the biggest stretch, but even him, I think he has an argument. All four of those guys, Hall of Very Good.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, Panthers Ring of Honor type players. Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams, two college stars. They end up in Miami with Nick Saban. They kind of headed the Wildcat formation, and not even Bill Belichick could stop that, at least the first time. Now everyone kind of gets it, but it was amazing that first game. I wish I could have seen it live. Just wondering what in the world are they thinking? Like Ricky Williams is at quarterback right now. Adrian Peterson and Chester Taylor. And Adrian Peterson could show up on this list a few times, not for his production, but just name worthy. Like he shared a backfield with Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. Tight ends, he shared. I just say that he shared one with Derrick Henry in Tennessee. So Chester Taylor actually did have a 1,000-yard season with the Vikings. The Steelers, I know we're a Steelers podcast, kind of nod, wink, wink, second and short with a focus on AFC North football, it seems like, which, shout out, HBO. We're definitely going to be following that along.
Oh, yeah.
December 3rd.
Jerome Bettis comes up here a couple times. And you can go back further, which we don't even have this one down, but Slash, Cordell Stewart, and Jerome Bettis.
Yeah.
That's
It just went off.
Yeah, they actually made a beep that time.
glorified fullback.
There was a game where he went like, everybody knows it. Everybody's seen the stat, but he had like a touchdown with like -1 rushing yards and like
I think he had
whatever it was.
3 touchdowns. I think Jerome had 3 touchdowns with
On
like
one
rushing
yard.
yard.
Something
Yeah.
insane like that.
And like 3, I don't know how many attempts, but yeah, something crazy.
And then the running backs that we were mentioning last week, actually, Jamal Lewis and Priest Holmes, two guys. What numbers were we debating for them? Was it 31, I think?
That sounds right.
Yeah, but so
31.
we ended up deciding on Priest Holmes, but they shared a backfield in Baltimore. Priest Holmes later on shares a backfield with another great Chiefs running back, Larry Johnson, who has the record for most career carries in a season, which blew my mind. That was like 458, which is
very
nuts.
high.
So he almost had a whole entire Bo Jackson career.
And that was just carries, right? That wasn't.
That was just
wasn't
carries.
touchdowns.
I'm assuming there weren't a ton of targets
Yeah.
coming his way, but no, good point. There was probably another 10 targets or so.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Anybody else that you guys want to throw all time? I'm sure we're missing somebody,
Yeah.
but
I want to throw this on. This one doesn't really count because it's college, but the 2001 Miami Hurricanes were just absolutely loaded. I mean, you got Clinton Portis, Frank Gore, Willis McGahee, Najee Davenport was the senior that year, which I think he played a little bit in the league, but nothing like remarkable. But just those 3 guys that I mentioned, like Clinton Portis, Frank Gore, and Willis McGahee, like at least 2 Hall of Very Good and 1 potential Hall of Fame. I think maybe Frank Gore is probably the argument for the Hall of Fame there, just based on longevity. But like, I mean, at least 3 Hall of Very Good.
I would
players.
agree. And I think Willis McGahee for sure is the Hall of Very Good. Frank Gore, I think, does eventually get in because of his longevity. He was never dominant necessarily, but the longevity is crazy. And
Yeah.
I think he finished pretty high on the all-time rushing list. Add on the fact, Clinton Portis, I think, has a better case for the Hall of Fame than what he gets credit for.
Yeah.
But just a couple years prior to that, because Edgerrin James was drafted in the first round in '99. Edgerrin James, an actual Hall of Famer, not just a Josie and Hayden Hall of Famer, is also on that roster.
Yeah, for sure.
So the U is different, man.
Insane. Yeah.
Great school.
I'm glad that you're staying in Erie, Pennsylvania, going to Gaynor University instead, though, Coop.
That's right.
Go Knights.
What a blessing.
All right, Cooper, can you see off of Josie's computer pretty well?
I can see extremely well off
All
of
right.
Jesse's computer.
What a blessing.
I want to do 2 drafts for defensive coordinators. I'm thinking 3 rounds for both of them. First, doing an all-time defensive minds list, a draft. And you guys aren't limited to those guys. I just tried to come up. But let's try and do a quick 3-round for both all-time and current day. Do you guys want to incorporate current DCs and current defensive minds into our all-time one, or do you want to keep it completely separate?
I think we should. I think the all time we should just do all time. Like
Okay.
it should just be if there's a current guy that's in the league that fits your criteria for it, then I think that's fair game.
Perfect.
I agree. Yeah.
So
All right.
Are we Are we doing defensive minds who are also good head coaches, or just
It doesn't
strictly
have to be. It
how
can
their
be a
defense
it can
is?
be a DC. So if we're looking all time, I'm gonna just give it away because someone's gonna draft him. Dick LeBeau had his chance as a head coach with the Bengals, did not do good. Came back to Pittsburgh, was a defensive coordinator, and arguably the best defensive coordinator of all time. Bill Belichick, for instance, insanely good defensive coordinator and head coach. They're both viewed. It's whatever you want. Mike Tomlin, like same thing. He's a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
There are a couple other guys that have had head coaching opportunities, but just didn't. So let's do all time first, and I'm gonna take the first pick. Do you guys want to snake it? I'm good.
Let's snake it. Yeah, let's snake it. There's a lot of names in here, dude.
I really wish I would have the second pick here because I can talk about whoever. I was going to go with the guy who's probably deserving to be number one, Bill Belichick, but I'm going to go with Dick LeBeau, who is in the Hall of Fame actually for his career as a cornerback across from Dick Night Train Lane, just a legendary cornerback duo with the Lions. They actually had a safety, I think, back there too. They had like three guys who all had double digit season picks, just at different times. Dick LeBeau, though, just the face of so many great defenses. The 2005 defense comes to mind because that's a Super Bowl winning one. 2008 comes to mind because that's a Super Bowl winning one. Maybe the best defense that Dick LeBeau ever coached, though, was the 2010 defense, which people kind of forget about that one because that was the year they lost the Super Bowl. They couldn't stop Aaron Rodgers, but no one could stop Aaron Rodgers on that playoff run with a young Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, Donald Driver. The list just goes on and on. But Dick LeBeau, and it helped having good defensive-minded head coaches like Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin, but just the edge rushers. Like, I just think of edge rusher when I think of it. Lamar Woodley, James Harrison, Clark Haggans, Joey Porter, like, just insane.
Yeah.
And obviously, even when it got bad towards the end and it started to tail off, the defense was still an above average defense. It just wasn't a Dick LeBeau standard defense. He ends up going to Tennessee as a senior advisor. Steals a couple of former Steelers, tried stealing James Harrison away from us, but Dick LeBeau, I know we don't do Hall of Fame for coordinators, but Dick LeBeau should honestly be in the Hall of Fame twice, once as a coordinator and once as a player.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Second pick is me, yes.
Yep, let's do it.
I knew you were either going to pick Dick LeBeau or Bill Belichick.
Time out real quick. We were kind of playing the age game before the show. How much do you remember of Dick LeBeau?
Not much.
Okay, and I was going to say, and that's like not a shot on you. I was just like kind of aging myself because even I came in at the end. Like, I became a diehard football fan 2012. I knew some stuff in like 10, 11. So I was like, Cooper honestly might not even remember him being our DC.
Yeah. I don't remember him at all being our DC. That's why I'm happy you picked him so I can get Belichick here. Belichick, it really speaks for himself. I mean, you can make the argument, oh, hey, Tom Brady carried him to all those Super Bowls, blah, 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 blah. But no, it's a team game. Belichick had great defensive play all of those years, and honestly a great offense too. So that's why I think he's deserving of this 2 spot, and he is out of a job this year, but is definitely a Hall of Fame coach.
No, and I think I don't think Bill's ever said this, but Belichick has probably coached the greatest offensive player, defensive player, and special teamer of all time. Tom Brady on the offense, Lawrence Taylor on the defense, because Belichick was an insanely good D coordinator. Now he has Bill Parcells, and that's a pretty darn good mentor. But his work as a DC was awesome. He mentored Nick Saban in Cleveland. Like, Bill Belichick, just amazing. Oh, and special teams. You can
talking
either
about Slater?
They were talking about Slater, but Vinatieri obviously has the argument as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that's, in my mind, I think that's how those 2 picks were going to go. So I kind of, in a way...
The draft started here.
The draft started here. We said that before, like, with one of the drafts that we did. Like, this is kind of where it actually starts. And I get 2 picks in a row, which is nice. Because there's a lot of names on here that are just, I mean, they're just really good. and I'm gonna have to wait through 4 more picks before I get my final one. I'm gonna do some recency bias on this one, and this may have been my second round pick in a different draft, but I think Steve Spags, just with what he's done there in the past, just look at the past 2 years, right? The past 2 years when they won the Super Bowl, like I think we talked about this on a previous podcast. Is like this last year may have statistically been Mahomes' worst year of his career, and they won the Super Bowl. And a big part of that was because of how dominant that defense is. And then they'll go and they'll lose a player that everybody thinks they need, like Charvarius Ward, and then they come back and they're a top 5 defense, and they win the
Snead
Super Bowl.
this year,
They
so we'll
lose Snead
see.
this year. They're going to be completely fine next year. They're going to have Trent McDuffie. He's going to be a first or second team All Pro. Like, and part of the reason for that is because Steve Spags is a really, really great defensive coordinator. So, I mean, I could go on, but I think that kind of, I mean, I don't think he's probably one of the better defensive coordinators in the league right now, if not the best. So
No, agreed. And
Yeah.
he's another guy who, I mean, Belichick honestly should be in the Hall of Fame as a D coordinator and a head coach.
Yeah.
But I would say Spags, another guy, got his head coaching opportunity. Didn't work out with the Rams, obviously, but and I don't even think you mentioned his time with the Giants. He's a 2-time
not,
Super Bowl
yeah.
champ as a defensive coordinator with the Giants. So he's beaten Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So that just adds to an already impressive resume.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I could go a couple different ways here, but again, the board is kind of wide open because those first two, I knew that they were going to be gone with the first 2 picks. I'm probably gonna go. Jeez, there's some names. I keep looking at these names. I'm distracting myself with how good these are. But like, I mean, we talked about it even just last week, and Naples was hating on him. But I'm gonna go with Jim Schwartz. Like, just in the time
All
he was
time?
with. I mean, wasn't he? He was in Buffalo for a while. He was with the
Eagles when
Eagles,
they
he was
won.
with the
Tight end, Lions. He was a head coach in the. No,
I feel like anywhere he went, like even if he didn't have like top tier talent, like he at least got them to produce at a top 50% level, regardless of not having the talent. And yeah, maybe there's better names on there, but just like when I think of the teams that are represented by him being the D coordinator, it's like, I mean, I don't know. There's
I think it's early,
Yeah.
but I'll take it just because
Yeah.
Naples was on a whole different level last week. I don't.
I was
Someone
gonna
pooped
pick
in
him.
Naples Cheerio,
Yeah.
so
I was gonna pick Jim Schwartz this pick right here, but I'm gonna go.
Cooper is a youngin, so show him some grace.
I'm gonna go Vrabel here
Okay.
because of his defensive success and his head coaching success. Yes, he got fired or let go, but we all know he should have a job, and it should not be some assistant to the assistant in the marketing department of the Cleveland Browns. I don't know what his job is there, but
is he with the Browns?
Yeah,
Yeah, with the Browns.
he is assistant linebackers coach. He's playing scout team linebacker, which that's scary. I don't care if you're a 40-plus-year-old. Like, I'm intimidated by Mike Vrabel.
Sure.
But I'm picking him here just because of his defensive success and his head coaching success.
I like it. I think that there are going to be some old timers that I personally leave off, and I think you guys will too, just because, I don't know, it was hard. But at one time, the NFL was ruled by defense. So if you look at some of the really good coaches from the 70s, and there were tons of them, a lot of those guys are defensive-minded head coaches. So I'm going to stay away. We can give out some honorable mentions later on. I'm going to go with Wade Phillips here. And I think
I was hoping I could steal him.
Wade Phillips is just another guy. Didn't work out as a head coach in Dallas, and I think he had one other stop, maybe Buffalo. He had a couple of chances as a head coach. Didn't work out. As a defensive coordinator, I first became familiar with him with the Broncos. He was the DC during those Peyton Manning years. And guess what? No-fly zone. Super Bowl winning defense. And then he was there for a bit, kind of disappears. He winds up in Los Angeles with Sean McVay. And Sean McVay, everyone knew he was going to handle the offense all by himself, but he needed somebody to be a defensive mastermind. And Wade Phillips delivered just that. Spent 2 seasons, I believe, with Los Angeles. kind of that's when we saw Aaron Donald take it to another level. Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters come over. There's some real talent, and Wade Phillips' defense, I think, holds up in today's NFL.
Yeah.
He's currently a head coach in the USFL,
Mm-hmm.
and he has publicly said that he thinks that age is the only reason why he's out of the NFL.
Yeah.
His performance is still good enough. His defensive scheme is still good enough in this new age of NFL offense.
To give you an update, Wade Phillips started his first job as defensive coordinator was in 1981 with the Saints.
Wow.
He became the interim head coach for a season after that was done. Then he went to be the D coordinator in Philly, and then he was the D coordinator with the Broncos, and then he was the head coach of the Broncos, and then he was the D coordinator of the Bills, and then he was the head coach of the Bills, and then he was the D coordinator at Atlanta, and then he was the interim head coach in Atlanta. He was the D coordinator with the Chargers. He was the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. He was the D coordinator of Houston Texans, interim head coach of the Houston Texans, and then started the Broncos.
Just
with
crazy.
No fly zone.
And
Just a
kind of
huge
building off of
rapport.
yours, Cooper, Mike Vrabel would have coached under Wade Phillips then.
Yeah.
Him and Romeo Crennel. So
Mhm.
just a legend. He should be in the NFL. Another
100%.
Hall of Fame defensive coordinator, but just absolute legend. Should still be coaching. I'm glad he's coaching in some capacity, but
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense why this guy's getting blackballed. There's a clear age problem in the NFL because he is still more than capable of being a top 10 defensive coordinator.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I'm up again, and I like this guy less of what he did because I honestly am not super familiar with his game, but I'm familiar of everything that happened after him. I don't think Josie knows where I'm going. I'm gonna go Monte Kiffin
No, okay.
for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I think there's a relation to Lane Kiffin, the offensive whiz in college right now.
He's not on this list, is he?
Nope.
Okay.
So what makes Monte Kiffin so intriguing is he coached multiple Hall of Fame players.
Mhm.
Simeon Rice, who I don't know if he's in yet, but he should be. Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, Rondé Barber, John Lynch. A lot of insanely good guys. The Tampa 2 defense
Mm.
is one of the most popular defenses in NFL history.
Yeah.
He came up with that. His coaching tree, which it's already an intriguing coaching tree because he coached under John Gruden.
Yeah.
But Mike Tomlin, Hall of Fame head coach. Lovie Smith, not a Hall of Fame head coach, but a Hall of Very Good coach, I would say. And did take a team to a Super Bowl, a rather untalented Bears team. Rex Grossman was the quarterback. So Lovie Smith deserves some kudos.
Yeah.
I think I'm missing some other guys, but just an amazing coaching staff, legendary defense. Like, not many guys can say, hey, we were the mastermind behind one of the more popular defenses in NFL history. Monte Kiffin can't say that.
Solid.
Cool.
I'm really happy this person fell to me because he was one of the first names that I saw on this list because he is one of a more recent people here, and I was just looking up his resume, and I actually forgot that he coached the Legion of Boom. Dan Quinn here. I'd forgot that he was in Seattle, and that kind of pushed me over the edge because he's had great success in Dallas. Yeah, super happy he fell here.
That's an interesting one because I don't even know if you know this. I like that pick more than the guy I'm about to bring up because of his time in Dallas and then obviously takes the Falcons to the Super Bowl. But the mastermind behind the Legion of Boom was actually Gus Bradley.
Yeah.
Dan Quinn was the second part of that. But I think Dan Quinn has Gus Bradley is still hanging around as a D coordinator, but Dan Quinn multi-time head coach. So, but I'm not sure. Seahawks had some coaches.
Oh yeah.
Man.
Oh, for sure.
Josie wrapping up the all-time one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a little bit of a controversial one here. Do you guys have any idea where I'm going with this?
Is this who you thought I was gonna go with?
Yeah, it was.
Patricia.
No, because you said something about you think about him more as what happened after, and that's
Rex
kinda,
Ryan.
No, So here's the thing, okay? Because a lot of people remember this guy for a really big scandal, if you will. Bountygate,
Vic Fangio?
Greg Williams.
I like it.
People forget how good the Saints defense was when they won that Super Bowl.
Except for when he does a
I
cover
don't
zero
remember-
blitz all
I
the
don't remember
time.
Greg
I
Williams.
get it, but like here's the thing, okay? You got, I mean, sure, you got Tracy Porter who had a pick six in the Super Bowl. You've got Darren Sharper in the backfield, like in the secondary, whatever. Like you've got guys, and then you've got a good offense with Drew Brees, right? Whatever. Like part of the reason, or a big reason, in my opinion, that those defenses are so good is because of Greg Williams and his system. Yes, say what you want about the cheating scandal, the bounty gate paying players incentives to injure players is awful, right? Like, but when you talk about defensive minds, like look what he did with the Browns. There were legitimate people calling for him to be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns because of what he did.
He deserved it. I wouldn't have hired him, but he did deserve it off of that.
Because he's a good coach. He is very good at what he does. It just so happens that some of what he does is also cheating. So I'm gonna go Greg Williams here.
Cooper, I know you said that you weren't familiar with him. So, like Josie said, he was longtime DC of the Saints. He was responsible for the bounty gate, like paying players to go.
With Sean Payton.
Yeah, but to go murder Brett Favre, basically. He was the Jets defensive coordinator. He was the Browns defensive coordinator during Baker's rookie season. And when Hugh Jackson got fired, he was the interim head coach.
Gotcha.
So, impressive resume. Oh, you're right. That's a very controversial one, Josie.
I like being controversial.
No, it's a good pay. The highs were very high. Like, he is very polarizing. I don't think has a coaching gig right now, though, kind of showing, like, yeah, the highs are he's one of the best defensive minds
you're
in
bleeding,
football.
by the way. On your chin.
Pimple.
Man, we're a hot mess.
I'm fighting through it.
We
Yeah.
really are. Yeah.
I still think this is less chaotic than the episode a couple of weeks ago. But no, and some honorable mentions for all time: Matt Patricia, Ron Rivera, Dom Capers, Lovie Smith, Gus Bradley, Wink Martindale, Todd Bowles, Leslie Frazier, Romeo Crennel, Mike Zimmer, Rex Ryan, Buddy Ryan, Vic and Chuck Pagano. Continuing the list, I mentioned some old heads: Bud Grant, the Vikings head coach during the 70s. A Hall of Famer, Chuck Noll, Tom Landry, Marty Schottenheimer, Marty Schottenheimer's protege, Bill Cowher. So there are a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Real quick, we're doing our thing where we take longer than we always thought, which is fine. But best active defensive coordinator right now, who do you guys think?
I think that'd probably be my pick too. I mean, heck, I took him at 103, so I would say that's probably there.
Or we're not considering Bill active.
No, Bill and Vrabel, Carroll, I would say they're all not active. Second best, because I think Spags is unanimous right now. I think Tomlin has an argument.
I still am a big Brian Flores guy. What he did
Okay.
with the Minnesota defense last year, like they were legit at times. With yes, they had a guy who was in the top conversation of sacks, which they haven't had in a long time. But like the Minnesota defense hasn't been as good as they were last year since they had Xavier Rhodes and Everson Griffin.
I love that generation
Eric
of
Kendricks,
Vikings.
So
Yeah,
good.
Anthony Barr.
So good. But they haven't been that since that. And I think a big part of the reason why they were actually good last year, obviously they brought in names like Byron Murphy, and they didn't keep him because he's in Houston now, but Danielle Hunter, and like,
Ivan Pace, the rookie, coming out of nowhere.
yeah, absolutely. So like they obviously have guys, but I think that what brought them all together again to have the best defense since in the last 5 or 6 years was Brian Flores. So, and I mean, obviously he was a Steeler for a while. There were ups and downs with him as a head coach in Miami, but like I don't know.
He
I'm
was
a big
also
Brian Flores
working
guy.
with a lot of things going against him. The coach was tampering the heck away to try and get Tom Brady and Sean Payton there. There was tanking allegations. He had to overcome quite a lot. Definitely deserving of a head coaching contract.
Yeah.
Kind of every year when Steeler fans become bipolar with Mike Tomlin, not to go back to that, but I was like, okay, like I'm not the biggest Mike Tomlin fan, but I don't want to just get rid of him to get rid of him. Like it needs to be a certain guy that fits the mold, and just not just any coach can be the Pittsburgh Steelers coach. Brian Flores was on that short list of guys where I'd be like, okay, if we were to make a change, like I could get behind this.
That was like when everybody was
sure.
talking about the Steelers GM position and
Louis Riddick.
Louis Riddick. Like I think he would have been a good fit for the situation
Mhm.
that he was coming into. I don't know that he would
Kenny
fit
Pickett
every
would
single
still be the
situation.
starting quarterback if Louis Riddick was here. Vic Fangio coming off of a down year, obviously with Miami. The players didn't necessarily buy in, but the Eagles players sure are. He does have some experience with the Eagles. He worked with them ahead of the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. But I think he's kind of comparable to Wade Phillips. I think where might never be a good head coach, especially when you look at the age. But
Yeah.
in terms of defensive coordinator, it's hard to get better than Vic Fangio. Some current head coaches, Mike McDonald, a guy who I really like.
I read this Mike McDaniel first. I'm like, he's an OC.
Robert Saleh, who's not a great head coach. He seems over his head right now, and I still believe in him.
Yeah.
But in terms of defensive mind, just great. His successor in San Francisco, D'Amico Ryans. I think I mentioned Jerome Mayo. Matt Eberflus, he's a bum. We're not even going to talk about him. Sean McDermott, Jonathan Gannon, Raheem Morris.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we had this many defensive-minded head coaches, which is interesting to me.
It's interesting that you didn't put Tara Lawson on there. I'm not a big Tara Lawson guy.
It was on purpose. I did think. And I don't dislike him. I just I think that, and I've been very outspoken that I don't think the Steelers' defense is elite or anything. I think T.J. Watt is elite. I think Minkah Fitzpatrick has moments where he's the best safety, and I think Cam Hayward's a heck of a player. Alex Highsmith obviously has come along as well.
To go off of that point, I just don't think we've come together on the defense as like a whole team yet. Kind of like, I feel like the Browns last year, what made them one of the best. Now, I think we are comparable with the Browns, but I think we can be so much better than that Browns defense if we would come together and be that team. And I think Patrick Queen, as being the play caller and captain of that defense, is going to help with that.
We're going to have the first, hopefully, consistent green dot player that we've had since
Shazier.
Yeah.
We have our best linebacker room since it was Shazier, Timmons, and Vince Williams, which, granted, that set the bar really high.
Sure.
But Cole Holcomb, they're hopeful he can make it back by training camp. I'm skeptical, but
I mean, one of the four is getting cut, though.
you still have a lander. Well,
Do you think
Queen, Roberts, Holcomb,
Probably going to be Roberts or Holcomb.
and then
And,
who else am I missing?
The rookie,
Peyton Wilson.
Well, I know all four of those are safe.
We think all four make
Yeah,
it.
those.
I don't think any way we can cut one of those.
I
mean,
think it becomes a debate.
If it were one of them, it'd be Holcomb because of his contract. That would be my
Correct,
assumption.
but I don't know the language with the injury settlements. But I think those four are safe, and then I think there's a competition on if that fifth guy can make the roster, whether that's Mark Robinson or whether that's a out-of-town guy, whether it's Kwan Alexander or Miles Jack coming back. Who?
Marcus Allen?
I don't know if he ever got a shot after us.
Not really.
He was a good special
He's a free
teamer.
safety.
He was a fun local guy. Looking real quick at this list, the guy who Robert Saleh coaches with, Jeff Ulbrich, I like him. Lou Anarumo, a guy who's finally starting to get head coaching looks. Brandon Staley, I'm a Brandon Staley defender till I die. However, I used to say the same thing about Adam Gase, and that kind of backfired on me. So maybe I have to quit with that if I want Brandon Staley to ever get a second chance. Former Mercyhurst University quarterback, though. I'm not sure if you guys knew that.
Nice.
Aaron Glenn for the Lions, another guy. Mike Zimmer, another old head, really good DC. Trying to see. Dan Quinn we mentioned in the previous one. And yeah, that's it. So a lot of defensive. Granted, some of those are D coordinators, but a lot of defensive guys kind of starting to get head coaching interviews again, which isn't a bad thing.
Nice. Yeah.
All right.
Ready?
What has become our show? It's the iconic numbers. Numbers 40 through 49.
Yep.
Josie, you have everything up.
I do.
You are my great bookkeeper. Keep everything organized for me. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Like I said at the top, we have pretty much a unanimous winner for most of these guys. Me, Naples, and Josie stayed back last week and did it. There are a couple where we have honorable mentions for some debate. Josie, let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. Number 40, right?
40, yes. So we started up the conversation and actually moved on from this number based on one of the guys that we had put on there. And then we had to come back because I threw out a guy's name and we're like, oh, okay, never mind. But the first person we threw out was Peyton Hillis. I mean, heck, yes, it was a very short peak, but he's on the cover of Madden. I mean, we were talking about notoriety and, like, iconic. Like, does it get more iconic than that in the football world? It's like, yes, there's the Madden curse and things like that, but so we were settled on Peyton
But,
Hillis.
I mean, heck, that's part of the iconic, too.
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
makes being a part of the Madden cover so iconic.
Yeah, absolutely. And then later on, we may have been all the way to, like, 44. And then I'm sitting here, I'm like, what number did Mike Allstott wear? And we're like 40. And we're like, yep, okay, that's the answer.
Mm-mm.
So like those are the two guys that we threw out there, but I'm pretty sure that we decided Mike Allstott was the number.
I
So.
think so too. Cooper, I know we mentioned him earlier. Are you familiar with Mike Allstott's game?
You got to look up his highlights.
You gotta
It's
look up his
insane.
highlights. 1, 2. Talk to Gary Ford and Jim O'Cam about it. Mike Allstott was just different,
He
like
really-
peak NFL fullback, like Tim Riggins level.
He was
just amazing.
was he the guy that wore the?
Yes.
Yes.
he did have
Okay. Yep. I
But
remember. him.
he imagine like a mini Beastquake every single time he touched the football.
But like athletic too. He had a
Yeah.
1,000-yard season as a fullback.
How much do you weigh? A lot, didn't he? He was a big dude.
275 probably, if I had to guess.
I just want to see a picture of him. And then
Yeah.
I'll.
Yeah, and he didn't
Mike
look.
Allstott weighed
He was
247.
fat, but, like,
You see
yeah.
the picture?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I was way off with his weight, but still, like I mean, he was just a big. He wasn't fat at all.
He's 50 years old. Still probably looks like he could get
play.
reps. Yes.
He could play.
All right. 41.
Second number that we're going through, 41. We pretty much unanimously agreed on this. We did look it up. There's a couple names out there. Nothing insane. We decided on Anton Bethea. It's somewhat of a recency bias.
This one was a little bit of a weaker one.
Yeah, there weren't like a ton of names to go with for that. I didn't write down any names, unfortunately, as far as like who we had for honorable mentions. But we decided that Anton Bethea was the most notoriety.
We didn't write down any honorable
I
mention.
did not.
There was
unfortunately,
it was guys along the same lines though. Antoine Buffet, maybe more on the low end of the Hall of very good, really good career. Like it's just
Hitter.
yeah, nothing
Mhm.
that really stands out. Time with the Colts, the Cardinals, the Giants, the 49ers, kind of a journeyman safety, but
Yeah.
a consistent starter. Was a
Yep.
starter for well over a decade.
Mhm. Number 42. I actually just mentioned him a little bit ago when I was talking about the Saints defense, but Darren Sharper. I mean, just a guy. There were some guys for the 42, but like I think part of the reason that we went with this one was because of that YouTube video that I'm sure some millennials and older Gen Z.
I wish Naples
remember.
was here because Naples
Right.
loves reenacting it.
It was some dude who was playing Madden.
Darren Sharper.
Darren Sharper, the hardest hitting safety in the league. He put the team on his back. Like it's a super viral YouTube video from years ago that mentioned him, but also just his NFL career. I mean,
Over
I'm, like,
50 interceptions.
over 50 interceptions. Was on the Super Bowl team in
Correct.
2005. Was it 5 when they won it?
2009.
2000. I thought it was right after Katrina.
No, Breeze came over right after Katrina.
Okay.
But
yeah,
no, 2009 against the Colts because then
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So, but Darren Sharper just like yes, not only because of the YouTube video, but because he had an incredible not a Hall of Fame career, Hall of Very Good career, I would say. So,
would be in the Hall of Fame if he did not do some very heinous things to women.
but we're
Sure.
trying to focus on the positive.
Well,
We also did put
Iconic.
we also did put Vic over Ben because of his iconic.
okay, Vic, let's
Hawk
not
being in the news media.
I
You guys
don't-
put Vic over Ben.
for most iconic.
I
Really?
argued.
Maybe you
against
should
it.
show up, buddy.
Yeah. I
Really?
argued against it, but
That was when you were on your like 1 month sabbatical from the show. So
had to get core. All right, moving on to the next one. 43. I mean, we're a
Troy
Steelers
Polamalu.
podcast. We're a Steelers podcast. I mean, I don't even think I need to say his name at this point. They
Hold
should
on, hold
say
on.
it, But also,
I try and prevent there from being Steelers bias
there's
most
no
of the time.
bias.
Exactly. This
There's no
this has
bias.
nothing to do with us being a Steelers podcast.
This is a top 3 safety of all time conversation. Like, forget the number. We're talking about maybe the most notoriable safety of all time.
All
when you
those
talk about everything-
plays.
When you talk about the hair, when you talk about everything that Troy Polamalu did, the jumping over the line, like there's a chance that he is the most iconic safety of all time.
Yes,
would
without
agree.
question.
Yes,
The
I would
hair.
agree.
Yeah.
You mentioned the timing of the snap, jumping over the
That one
center.
interception.
The one-handed interception against the Chargers.
Yeah, which one?
You can look at
Interception.
the two plays against the Ravens, one in the divisional round, one in the AFC Championship,
6.
both at the expense of my quarterback, Joe Flacco. But one of the, I forget which one it even was, but one of them, James Harrison strip sacks him and Troy takes it all the way. The other one, Troy picks him off and takes it all the way to take us to the Super Bowl, I think. The hair, I don't, like, the Head and Shoulders commercials are still going.
Yeah.
Like,
Him and Mahomes. Like it's
he's been retired for a decade and he's still doing that commercial and everyone knows him.
It's like when you can put a player in the same commercial as Mahomes, You're talking about Aaron Rodgers with State Farm stuff. You're talking about Andy Reid with the new State Farm stuff. You're talking about Troy Polamalu in the Head and Shoulders commercial with Mahomes. Is like you're talking about a guy who has enough notoriety to be in a commercial with a guy who right now is the face of the entire NFL.
Face of sports
Yeah.
right now. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
he's Messi level. He's LeBron level right now.
Flowers
Well,
to Darren Sproles.
Exactly.
Flowers to Darren
And
Sproles.
I think, obviously, Darren Sproles, arguably a Hall of Famer in his own right. But Polamalu, I like these players that have numbers that are different. Like, when you think of 43, you're going to think of Troy Polamalu. Like, you're not going to think of these other guys. Minka Fitzpatrick, after his first year with the Steelers, he was talking about going back to number 29, which he wore in
I like
both.
29.
He wore it at college and with the Dolphins. I was really hoping that he would stay at 39 just because I was like, the most iconic 39 that I can think of at the top of my head was Willie Parker. So
We had Steven Jackson as our
Steven
answer.
Jackson. And I think, I don't even know if we brought up Minka, and I think Minka, if we do this list a few years from now, Minka probably has that over Steven Jackson.
I agree. Yeah. Moving on to the next one, we got 44. So we got 3 names for this one. I think we decided to go with the one, but I'm going to say the other 2 first. We had Ahmad Bradshaw, which of these 3 might probably be in that 3rd slot. Really good, but Vontae Leach, just a guy who is a really, really solid fullback.
Love the fullback. Love this episode.
Yeah, fullback love, but at the same time, you're also talking about a position that doesn't really exist in the NFL anymore outside of Juicy in 49erville. And then the guy that will probably end up winning this, in my opinion, Dallas Clark. I mean, he played with Hall of Famer. So, like, it's just...
Do you know
yes,
any
he
of
was
the
pretty
3?
good.
You don't know any of the 3. Dallas Clark was Peyton Manning's tight end. Wore 44, was a beast in college, and then a beast in the NFL. Like, we're talking, like, borderline Hall of Fame good at times.
Very, very solid, very good hands. Honestly, a very similar player, I would say, to like a Heath.
More athletic than
More
Heath.
athletic than Heath.
Got the
Miller.
ball more than Heath.
Yeah, a lot more targets, a lot more show. But I think we settled on Dallas.
Dallas
for that
Clark,
one, for
yes.
sure. So, 45. There was actually a little bit of debate around this one because we did decide to go from 2000 to present for all of ours. So there's 3 guys that we threw out there. First one, Marcel Reese, another fullback,
Fullback,
right? Yeah,
yep.
another fullback there.
Raiders.
Yeah, and then there's 2 guys that have some recency bias, but at the same time, I think they kind of stand out as far as that 45. They are, as of 2 seasons ago, both active, but Devin White and Deion Jones. A lot of people forget how good Deion Jones was at the beginning of his career, because obviously people, when they hear those 2 names, are like, oh, it's Devin White, easy. I want to make a case real quick for Deion Jones in this, that like he finished 3rd in Defensive Rookie of the Year in his rookie season, only behind, I can't remember off the top of my head who they were, but like guys who were obviously going to win it. He was 3rd in voting for Defensive Rookie of the Year. The dude has, I want to say he had 7 interceptions in his career, which is not a crazy number. There were like 4 of them that were returned for 6. 4 or 5 of them that returned for 6.
Lightning fast.
His interception yards are insane. He had a
Ryan Shazier of the
90-yard
NFC.
90-yard pick 6 in his rookie season. He had 2 pick 6 in his rookie season. Like, this dude was a monster at the beginning of his career. Falcons defense from that point, outside of Grady Jarrett, was kind of okay. Obviously, they had a Super Bowl run at some point. I don't remember if it was before or during his time when the Super Bowl run happened. I'm blanking off the top of my head, but just like
I think it was his rookie year, if I'm not mistaken, 2016. So.
yeah, and like I mean, he was a baller. I mean, obviously Devin White with his blazing speed, taken at the 5th overall pick. Like, I wouldn't be mad about either one of these, but I'm kind of leaning towards Deion Jones in this, to be honest with you.
It's Devin White. And listen, I actually really like all 3 of these guys. I love Deion Jones, but there's the thing. He's still playing in the league, and people don't even know who he is anymore. So, and Marcel Reese, I would love to give another fullback spot, but I think Devin White probably clears this, and it may be recency bias, but also,
I think so too. I think Devin White wins it just because of the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl. There's some Tom Brady stories in there. The contract, like, I don't know, a lot of stuff has been written and said about Devin White, both good and negative. So,
yeah. And I'm not mad about it. I'm a big Devin White fan, so I'm not mad about that. Moving on to 46, 2 guys. So we got some fullback love coming on all angles right now. James Devlin,
woo!
2 Super Bowls.
3. He was
3.
there for all 3.
There for all 3 Super Bowls, and then Randy Bullock wore 46 for a while, kicker.
for like 2 games. I
He
do want to
did,
say.
but also like I think
It's a
that the nod
kicker.
goes to Devlin in this.
Okay,
but
yeah, I was
also
gonna
at the
say.
same time, like kickers are known more for quarterback numbers,
Mhm.
1 through 8, and then
If he would have made a
Yeah,
career out of it, like Matt Ariza, I think, and he might be in the 40s or 50s, but he has a weird number
49,
with the
isn't he?
Chiefs right now.
I think
49.
I'm willing to bet he changes that after some people get cut and some of the single digit and team numbers are available. But if someone made it like a career out of that, then that's almost like an instant win.
Yeah.
But what, Cooper, do you want to make his number like 16 for the amount of like allegations?
Well, I was gonna go either allegations or age, but
He was cleared.
He was cleared of
He's
all
just
charges.
trying to make a new life for himself, and you're going to bring that up. Unbelievable.
No. All right. So James Devlin. For
Cooper, do we
46.
want to talk about age of woman that we're in a
Hold on,
relationship
what
with?
number are we-
Yeah.
What number are we
We
on?
are
right
at
now?
47, and it's another one of those ones.
Hold
that-
on, real quick with James Devlin.
Yeah.
Hall of very good fullback, kind of that last generation. One of the more underrated pieces of that second part of the Patriots dynasty.
Yeah, absolutely. 47 is another one that was pretty easy for us. It's John Lynch. I mean, not much needs to be said. There may have been some guys that we talked about, but like, it's John Lynch.
Hall of Fame safety, then a really good broadcaster.
Not
Now-
GM.
Wasn't he undrafted?
He's pretty
too?
good.
Am I remembering that
I'm
wrong?
not sure. He went to Stanford. I do know.
Yeah.
That sounds right. He was a weird position. He might have been like, he was a quarterback. That's what he was. He was
They
a.
couldn't figure out what position he was, so he went like undrafted or very late, if I remember correctly. And then whoever their DC was decided he was a safety, and like there was a whole documentary or something like that about it.
Yeah, he has a football life out there.
Yeah.
You
that's
said
what
you
it
said
was.
he's a pretty good GM.
He's,
So,
he's
I think he's top 10.
I would say he's top 5.
Okay, I thought you
Yeah.
said he wasn't.
Oh, no.
Okay.
no.
No, I am. I forget where I put him in my GM rankings this year, but he was top 5 in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was a third round pick.
It's golden hour out here.
You guys look
I'm
good.
good. Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm good. We can go.
1993, he was a third round pick. He was a quarterback at some point. I don't know if he
Yeah.
was a quarterback at Stanford, but if not, for sure, high school.
Yeah, I mean, not much needs to be said. John Lynch is the answer there. 48, a little bit of discussion around this one. Patrick Queen did wear it early in his career, but he's obviously more well known for
one.
6.
I think one season, maybe 2.
Yeah,
So
I think as soon as they allowed them to wear single digits, then he changed to 6. So I don't think he really qualifies for it. There's 2 guys that really stand out in this: Shaq Barrett, Bud Dupree. I mean,
I'm gonna go Dupree. Dupree.
yeah,
Dupree's now on his 4th stop with the
Mhm.
Chargers. He's won 48 at all 4 spots. Shaq Barrett wore 48 for 4 years with the Broncos. Did win a Super Bowl, but that was before he kind of took off. He was behind Shane Ray, Von Miller, and DeMarcus Ware.
and what did 50? What did he wear? In
50,
Tampa?
58, and then he switched over to 7.
Yeah, 7. That's right. Okay.
And I think that's what he's wearing in Miami this year.
I mean, we talked about this earlier. Like, yes, there are some slim pickings at these numbers, but like none of these guys are just scrubs. Like Bud Dupree,
They
was
were more
really
than what we
good.
thought. Yeah.
for sure. So like, moving on to the next one. This one's a little bit again of one of those ones that like, there's some players that wore it throughout the time, but like they weren't necessarily the guy known for it. Shaquem Griffin. Obviously, when we talk about guys that are known, obviously we talk about like the fact that he's missing a hand. Like there was a huge story about that in like the draft and leading up to it. You didn't really hear a lot about him afterwards, you know, other than when you're playing with him in Madden as a user because he's got some speed and he somehow catches the ball in his nub. Like,
Can you say nub
notoriety
again
early.
for me? I like
Nub.
that. Yeah.
Nub, catch it on his nub. He said, Jordan."
What?
It's a video. It was some.
You
sort
watch a
meme
lot of
video.
videos with nubs?
There was a video that went viral
Will
on
Levis.
social media of
Will
Shaquem
Levis's
catching
nub.
it.
Cooper could never compete with Will Levis's
Anyway,
nub.
moving on.
That ain't no nub.
Fred Warner wore 49 before he wore 54 a
For
little bit.
his rookie
for
season.
his rookie season. Sam Acho wore 49, and then the guy that I threw out at the end, I think probably wins this. Somewhat recency bias, but Tremaine Edmonds has worn 49 for his whole career. I think Tremaine Edmonds and Sam Acho are the conversation for this.
Really?
I'm
So I think Acho's, because Acho, which is funny because I think I'm the one that brought his name
I
up,
think
but
he did, yeah. I didn't.
very iconic. But
Yeah.
he wore different numbers throughout his career.
Okay.
49 he wore with the Bears.
Yeah. Then I think
Um,
it's pretty easily.
I think Shaquem Griffin has a real argument here.
my vote
Really?
goes to Griffin.
Okay.
Just
Dude,
because of
I fell
he
in
doesn't have
love
a
with
hand.
him during the draft
Yeah,
process.
yeah.
I was like a linebacker that runs a sub 4.4.
Are they twins?
Yes, I
Yeah,
believe
but they
so.
were separate. They were separate draft classes.
But yeah, by a couple of years, I think.
Shaquille came out before Shaquem did.
Yeah, because Shaquem, there was questions about what he could actually be able to do.
Yeah.
But
he set close to a record for the 40, which is part of
he
the
ran
reason
a 4.3. He ran a 4.38 as a
his
pretty big linebacker.
Yeah, his 40-yard dash and the fact that he didn't have a left hand. Was it his left hand?
Trying to think like
I
on
think
Madden.
it was left.
Like,
I'm pretty sure it was left. But like, yeah, I mean, I'm not mad about that. I do think that Tremaine Edmonds has made somewhat of a name for himself, but at the same time, I do think that when we go based on notoriety or whatever you want to call, I always blank on the word that we mentioned. What's the word?
Iconic.
Iconic. Thank you. I think Shaquem Griffin fits that mold.
I mean, even like the commercials, like they have those commercials where it's actually really wholesome. Their dad's like teaching both of them like how to shave and stuff, like playing outside. I haven't seen one of those in a while, but those were airing well after Shaquem's career was over.
Yep.
I also casuals,
Yeah.
like Tremaine Edmonds, very good off-ball linebacker,
Yeah.
not elite but very good.
Yeah.
Who most people can be like, oh, I remember that guy that played college in Florida. He didn't have a hand. He did really good at the combine. Like, I remember that feel-good story.
Yeah.
So I would lean Griffin.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, so to recap real quick, we went Mike Allstott, Anton Bethea, Darren Sharper, Troy Polamalu, Dallas Clark, Devin White, James Devlin, John Lynch, Bud Dupree, and Shaquem Griffin.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So next week we will do numbers 50 through 59, and I don't know how much more we'll do. We'll definitely do at least one other thing, but
We'll
that's going to
probably-
take a little bit, I think, even with us talking about it.
We could probably do a recap of 1 through 52. I think we had talked about that at one point.
Yeah,
whenever we hit
yes,
50 to
I
go
would
through
like that.
Yeah, 1 through 50. So
But nice. Good episode, boys. So we have a couple things that we are working on for you. Currently, we're doing our top 50 wide receivers entering the NFL. That's on TikTok. We just did numbers 50 through 31. So those are out. We've also done that already with quarterbacks and running backs. So go check that out if you haven't. We're going to stay active. We are posting back on Spotify. For those Spotify lovers, we did get back on Spotify as of last week's episode. We will continue to be posting on both TikTok, Spotify, and YouTube for the podcast. There's also something, and I don't even know if Cooper knows this yet, but me and Josie have been working behind the scenes. We are going to try and predict the whole entire NFL season, all 256 games. Me, Josie, Cooper, Eli, some friends of the show, Naples, maybe Melto. Maybe Melto comes. We're Hunter for sure. Naples, Melto, we're still trying to convince to get on.
Yeah.
So, Josh Melto, if you're listening to this,
He'll be on.
come on, dude.
let's get it.
So we'll be coming to you with that. We're probably not going to live stream that because that's going to be a long, long time. But thinking maybe we do it. We take some notes over what caused some controversy, some teams that we disagreed on, because we are going to try and come as close to a unanimous season predictor as possible. But we can probably dedicate a whole show to just kind of recapping that and going through. And heck, we can even do the playoffs while we're at it. We can use Eli's smarty brain to figure out everything. But
Excel
Yes.
whiz.
freaking the sheets.
That's
I got him a shirt.
pause. No, did
I
he?
got him a shirt for that for
Did you?
Christmas. Yeah.
Nice.
Shout out to Eli right now, coaching a double header
Mm.
baseball game. It's 90 degrees where we're at. I know we get listeners all over the world, but 90 degrees right now. But
81.
81. Okay,
81
well
now.
it's dry. When we started, it was in the 90s. So,
Yeah.
also we never. This is kind of sweet. We're kind of recapping on everybody. Obviously, we announced last week, maybe the week before, that Naples would be coming on full time. Eli also will be coming back at some point. Give him a hard time in the comments. We're trying to get him back. He would rather coach middle school baseball. I don't know what to do with him.
A lot of money in middle school baseball coaching.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's his passion.
Yeah.
But
What a blessing.
Christian obviously has not been there. This was his seat. You may remember him from manspreading, swearing a lot more than anyone else. Yeah, but one episode, me and Cooper literally caught him scratching his balls. So, $10 gift card to whoever can find that and clip it and send it to us. Christian is currently at basic training right now in Texas for the Air Force. We're very proud of him. We'll be seeing him eventually, but keep him in your thoughts and prayers. That is where Christian's at. Christian did not just quit on the show.
Thank you for your service.
Thanks, Josie.
My pleasure.
Appreciate that.
No,
He
not
said
for
that
you.
last week too.
Thank you for your service, Christian. Not you. Sorry.
Well, thank you for saying it to my brother.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes.
There we go.
I don't want to do stolen valor.
That's right. Exactly. You know,
Don't
it's a serious issue.
Yeah.
He said that he was. We'll wrap it up. But so the last thing he said, he was like, I don't even know if I'm gonna do the vets rack at Chick-fil-A. And I said, bro, I was like, well then you do it and then bring me home a sandwich or something. Like I was like, take advantage of that. Come
Yeah.
on now. But
Nice
yeah, so
stuff.
we'll be working hard, stay up to date. You guys know all of our socials. We'll see you next time. This has been the Second Short Podcast. We still went over an hour.
Did we really?